That way, if we do everything a week later, everybody can. It won't be the first week, it'll be another week.
We probably got 3 hours, we'll probably do more.
So we'll do it a week later? Is that what we're doing, a week later? So we'll always hit it on around Mom's birthday. Let's get off those things then.
And we ought, while we're talking about this, we should give.
It's also very close to my
Should
birthday.
give Happy and Ed and Bonnie and Johnny a real big hand because of the long distance that they came. Obviously, they made arrangements to get here. I think big hand. I know that's heard of poor Bonnie and Johnny that all the way from Orlando Park. That's pretty nice.
That's a long distance.
That's a pretty good way.
That was a short trip.
Really
You make a couple across the country and you know what long it is.
I can tell you this, that ain't gonna happen tomorrow.
2.5 days to Denver.
No, we were.
Let's sing some more songs.
Coming up from Orlando, we couldn't help but think that that trip was about as long as Pennsylvania. And we used to think, when we first started thinking that was a 2-day trip.
Okay, we're going to sing 2 more songs. And the last one's going to be I've Never Been Sorry. And then we're going to have each person, starting with Nancy, a chance to talk about themselves. Because she's been outside thinking about something to say. All right. I've Never Been Sorry will be the last one. What's going to be next to the last one?
Okay, I changed my mind. Let's do 203.
Page 203. We changed our
That's the song that people like to sing. That's it. That's good.
Open your mouth, please.
Your fingers for it. That way it doesn't pick up the speaker.
Okay, what are we singing now?
I ain't gonna sing so we can only sing 2 more songs.
Well, we'll go back this morning. We're going to go through the song a little bit.
Okay,
Jesus saved and pardoned, now it's singing every day. I've never been sorry, praise the Lord. Blessed holy day. Dark shadows he is with me on the upward way. I've never been sorry, praise the Lord. It's my privilege to turn this microphone over to the elder statesman of the nation.
Am I talking? I am. Okay, when I was out walking around this town, I just thought of something. That I really can't believe I'm gonna tell y'all, but I am. For the past several weeks, for some reason, I've had this overwhelming desire for a car that I could wear instead of just riding around with kids in it all the time. You know, I've never my whole life had a car that I could just go buy because that's the kind of car I wanted. So I have been so eat up with getting a new car, well, not a new one, but one new to me. Like I had a Cadillac in mind, not one like Steve's, of course, because I can't afford a new one. But like a Lincoln Town Car, that sounded real good. But my husband seemed to think if I could have a nice luxury car as I wanted, I definitely should have an Infiniti. Well, we went round and round about, I kept saying, find me a Continental, because I can afford one of those, but I can't use the Infiniti. Well, my next door, one of my good friends in Augusta, she found out how much it meant to me to have a car, and she found out why. Because I finally told her, I said, you know, I don't know what it is and why I really want this car. Except I'm getting ready to go to a family reunion. All my brothers and sisters are very competitive. And one of my brothers just bought a new Cadillac, and the other one got a Suburban, and I'm sure that my younger brother drives a Cadillac already, and I cannot go up there in a Hyundai. So she went out and she bought herself a brand new Lincoln Town Car, and she said, you can use my car to go to your family reunion. She told me that one night. The next day, Ted called me and he said, would you like to ride up with us in my new car? And I thought, she went and bought a car. For me to drive to my family reunion because she knows I can't afford to buy a brand new one, and she could. And now my brother's calling me to ask me to ride with him in his Suburban. So I told her thank you, but I would ride with my brother instead of driving her new car. But I drove my Hyundai to Augusta. Anyway, and I don't know, I'm so glad I'm here. It didn't cost me a dime to buy a new car because I'm still going to be driving that Hyundai probably till the next family reunion.
Okay, Bonnie, you're next. You can say anything you want to. You can have anywhere from 1 minute to 15 minutes to speak your mind. I suggested, you know, in my thought before that, you know, a person thinks about what's maybe the best or some of the best things that have happened to you, your spouse, or your children, and what are maybe some of the worst things that have happened. You know, getting an idea, somebody talk about the worst things and all they can come up with is they stumped a toe, well, you know, things are going pretty well for them.
That's pretty funny because I did stump my toe, my little toe, about, what was it, about 6 weeks ago, and it kind of broke it or something. It got real swollen, real big, and I was kind of limited which kind of shoes I could wear, and it hurt terribly bad. So that was pretty bad at the time. I thought it was pretty tragic, and as a matter of fact, it happened right in the middle of, am I talking about? Oh, sorry. It happened right in the middle of something else that was going on at my house. Most of you, I think, know or heard that Jana needed reconstructive knee surgery, and that was scheduled for, what do I even need this mic?
But you only get your mouth out of here. Don't get your mouth off of it.
And Jana was scheduled for reconstructive.
You're doing fine, don't you?
You got too soft.
Oh, let us laugh at
You're
it.
trying to whisper on it.
Bonnie, I mean, that shit on my You soft and soft.
If no matter how I talk, they're gonna laugh at me. Right? You know how in church they have amen corners? In our family, we have this laughing corner.
Oh, the ridicule corner.
Yeah, the ridicule. Now what?
Just keep talking, and you can hear yourself and put it up here.
I really don't need to hear myself. I know exactly what I'm saying.
I really hear it.
Anyhow, okay, so Jana had reconstructive knee surgery on August 27th, which to Jeanette's disappointment, that was her birthday, and she didn't get as much attention out of that. And then 3 weeks later to the very day, Hans had to go in and have reconstructive knee surgery. So we had kind of a interesting time. And of course it all worked out very well because Jana was there at the house with us, so we could take care of her pretty good. And Hans was down in Pueblo, which is, what, 100 miles away, living by himself, and we're feeling really sorry for him because, of course, he's still learning how to get along in life without his spouse. And I thought, well, I can't leave this poor kid down here. I mean, I know he's an adult, but he's still my little boy. I can't leave him down there all by himself with nobody to take care of him. So I made Jana get well real quick. I said, you have 3 weeks to get on your feet and be moving around pretty good because Hans needs some help and Jeanette's in school, so you got to help him. So that's kind of the way things did work out. Really, Jana had pretty good recovery. What was really funny, this was supposed to be what do you call it, outpatient surgery. She ended up staying in the hospital for 2 nights because she couldn't keep anything down in her stomach, and they got worried that she was dehydrated.
Did she have an accident and hurt her knee?
Oh, Jana in her last basketball game of her high school year, senior high school year, last sports activity that she would be in as a high school student, she tore her ACL, which is the ligament that holds your knee together, holds your legs together, whatever. Anyhow, and unfortunately, they did not diagnose it until July. She had been to the doctor, she had been in for therapy, and they kind of hemmed and hawed around, and finally in July they said, you need surgery. And it has been a pretty big disappointment, and for all of you that think about Jana, pray for her because she was really all excited about going to the Teen Mania mission training, which is really like a youth mission program where they send these kids off for a year and they get to go on some mission trips and they get to work in their office, the office of this organization, and we get to go on some, what do they call them, conferences that they have for youth across the country. And she was just all excited about all this, and of course that just put a stop to it, but she's learning to wait on the Lord and realize that sometimes, you know, what we think is God's plans for us may not be, and He points these things out to us in sometimes in very unusual ways. And so she, although it's been fairly heartbreaking to her, she's learning to trust the Lord and to follow His leading through all this and be willing to just, you know, accept what He brings in her life as His leading for her. So, but anyhow, in the meantime, then Hans has done quite well. He didn't have any of the slow started recovery up front. He was in the hospital. I mean, he was in the outpatient deal, and I think 2 hours later he was out and going home and ready to eat and ready to go to some youth conference that night. And he's just done real well. Hopefully, he's not pushing himself too fast with it. But anyhow, Jana was able to help him, so that was good. And I thank the Lord that I don't have just one kid, and I had to figure out how to do all that by myself, which I'm sure I would have because that's what mothers like to do for the kids. But anyway, it was kind of funny because one time we were going into a restaurant, Hans, Jana, I don't know where Jeanette was that night, mother with her broke toe or whatever, and John gets out of the car, the fourth one following us into the restaurant, and all of a sudden he just busts out laughing. He said every one of us were limping and carrying on. He felt a little bit like the outsiders. We definitely looked like a banged-up family. But actually, the Lord's been good to us.
You should have given a little swag.
And we had to get in there so she could, Janet spread out her leg this way and then Hans this way.
But in spite of that, all the Lord's been really good to us, and I don't know, it's just exciting knowing Him. I tell you what, it's really exciting to me coming to our family reunions, more so than ever. I've always enjoyed being with my brothers and sisters, and when we had the kids around. But it's the last couple of times when we've gotten together, and there's all of the kids are talking about what the Lord's doing in their lives and whatever. I just find that just too exciting for words, and I just want to tell you that I'm glad you're all my brothers and sisters, and 7 is not too many. It's a perfect number. I wouldn't want to be without any of you.
I want to know what kind of car you rode in up here.
The car I rode in, well, here did not belong to me.
I don't care what kind of
Listen, if we're going to talk about cars, let me tell you what our situation at home about cars is. We have a van that Hans managed to beat up pretty well while he was going to school. Now, I didn't really want it when we got it. I just wanted it for one trip, and that was the end of that. And I certainly didn't want to be the one that was going to drive that big old van. I mean, you know, we're talking about one of those big custom vans, you know, to work every day. I did not want that. I told my husband I did not want to drive a truck, and I wanted just a little car. I didn't care how little and how simple and how cheap it was. I just wanted a little car. And somehow or another, that was years ago, and I'm still driving that stupid van. And every once in a while we get into this deal, well, who's going to drive what car? We bought a new, well, not new, but we bought a new for us, Buick, not too long ago. And I thought, oh, goody, this is going to be my car. I don't have to drive this stupid van anymore. Well, guess what? Jeanette gets to drive the Buick. And Jan and I had this little conversation the other day that we decided, you know that old adage that the wheel that squeaks the loudest gets oiled? And we decided we aren't squeaking loud enough, so there'll probably be a little more squeaky. Okay.
God's next.
Oh, you have to come up here. I guess this is the hot seat.
But you know what's going on? Just tell my story.
Come on, you can think of something. Tell what you're doing.
What am I supposed to think of?
How are you going to clean up that mess in your office?
You're supposed to be telling something about what's going on in your life. Tell them what a wonderful wife you have. Tell them things like that.
Well, my life's always interesting because I have money. Let's see. Well, I just got back from New Mexico. I spent some time last week on an Indian reservation, which makes me real thankful when I went out there to see those people, how they lived, and how they've been stuck out on their reservations. And of course, our government gives them money, but what it seems to do is make things worse. And so it made me to be real appreciative of my situation and what I have in the Lord, and the fact that I've heard about Jesus Christ all my life, even though I was older teenager when I accepted Him. So experiencing things like that makes me thankful. Also, what's interesting about that trip is I drove down to Gatlinburg, New Mexico, and I went through some areas and parts of the country that I've never been in before. See all the rock formations, and as you go down through there, you can really see the evidence of a universal flood. There's one place they call Shiprock, New Mexico. I don't know if anybody's ever been there or not, but there's a big place, and it looks like a tall ship as you look over in the shadows of these big rocks. And they named the town after the rock because it looks like sails of a ship over there where it's been washed down. And a very, very interesting place. And so then I came back a different direction, and it seems like when I go places now, I try to go a different way, a different direction. When we came here this time, I have never driven between Jacksonville and Columbia, that direction. I've been to Charleston before, I've been to Sumter, I've been to Orangeburg. So it's been interesting recently to see different parts of the country and take different roads and see the United States of America. I've been in Europe and different places in Europe, but one thing that's interesting about the United States is the fact that anywhere you go in Europe, you can almost find some place like it in the United States. So it's been interesting to see the geography of the country in the last several years, and just taking all these different trips, and it's been exciting. What else am I supposed to say?
Tell us what kind of car you drove up here.
Yeah, the rental car place made a mistake on my deal, so I was able to negotiate a little better car than I had reserved. So that's the reason we ended up with that car, Nancy.
I saw that out there, that's what made me help.
So-
I thought
We came up here to...
I drive a Cadillac too, but it's got 150,000 miles on it.
You said that you
You still got that old Cadillac?
No,
I'm gonna wipe it out.
has 300,000.
You still have that car?
No,
I thought you donated that Cadillac
I did.
years ago.
no, we paid for
They gave you
it.
that.
Marcy, you're next.
Marcy must be next.
Marcy.
Oh, leave it on here. That Cadillac had a hood as big as this room.
Got a gas tank twice as big as
It needed it.
Tank.
That was a great
What
Cadillac.
was Curtis? What was that? Like,
Some running thing.
Oh, I
Otis
see.
Armstrong.
That's pretty comfortable in there. I'm gonna put you in the time clock.
15 minutes.
I'm gonna watch. I'll tell you something. We'll say amen when your time's up, right?
Okay.
I don't know.
5 till 11.
Melvin, you can always tell when a preacher's gonna keep you there a long
10:30,
time.
when
When
they
he
take
takes
their
his
watch
watch off and sets it on the podium, you know you're in for a long sermon.
One guy walked in the back of the church one time. This was a young fellow up there. And the guy said, well, how long's this fellow been preaching? He was wanting to know how many years. Or he wanted to know how much time. This guy said, oh, he's been preaching about 15 years. He said, well, I'll stay a while. We shouldn't be doing that. Part of your time.
Well, I'm enjoying life. I've always said I'd rather be this age than 20 or 30. I think this is the best age. And staying very busy. I guess if anything, I think if I had 30-hour days instead of 24, that would be real good, but I would fill them up also. Because I imagine, I just have to admit, I must enjoy being busy or I wouldn't be. But I feel like I have, in some ways, I guess, the best of both worlds, because I'm not obligated for a lot of things, but I can choose so many things, and I see so many things that need to be done. And I have a lot of opportunities. But I guess the most amazing is to know, because when you start out in life, you don't know what direction the Lord might take your life. And yet, and some things come up in your life and you're not exactly sure why. And you didn't anticipate it and you didn't feel like you were prepared for it. But if you live long enough and we really begin to see how the Lord works in our life, I can look back over my life and I see how all the things that I have done, all the things I have experienced were necessary to get me to this point. Running the daycare has helped me in a lot of ways. Learning bookkeeping at Checkout Systems, which was, I guess, a lot of credit to Bonnie and Daddy because of that. I have used that. I have to say that everything I've ever learned I use in some way or other. But running the daycare in Virginia, we came back in one of the weak spots they had at Tabernacle. They had a daycare, a wonderful building, a big, wonderful, empty building. And so we've been staffing it better and got curriculum going, and they're doing field trips, and it's better equipped, and it looks like a different place. And if I had had that experience at Virginia, I would not been able to help to make that improve. And then going into nursing, there's not too many vocations you can go into and work just about whatever you want to. Usually you're either tied down to it or you're not working. But in nursing, it is the field that I can pretty much work a day or two or not at all and still maintain a job. And so that's pretty neat. And like I think I told Nancy, I want to keep a day or so a week, partly because I want to keep my license, but also because I want to be where I don't want to live under the umbrella of a church to the point that I forget how everybody else deals with life. I want to deal with life like they do, that you're not somebody different, that you can't relate to them, how they're living. And I think there's a danger of that sometimes until, it's kind of like I've got the answers or I'm supposed to be, we're just people, whatever field. And so I think the Lord has given me that opportunity to have gone into nursing shortly before we came to Tabernacle. And then as to relate, 20 years ago, I went through this really, really hard time when I really was not happy about being in a big church, and we weren't pastoring then. And yet, during that period of time, I realized that the Lord made me like I am. So he must have known what he was doing. And I have learned to accept what he made and to give it back to him. And found that it's good just to be what God made us to be. And to serve him. Because most of us are just common, ordinary people. Someone said God must have loved ordinary people. He made so many of them. So right now I'm nursing a day or two if I can run fast enough and they can't catch me for anymore. And usually go visiting shut-ins one day a week with several other ladies. And we'll eat lunch together and visit these different little shut-in people. And it's a real joy to do that. And then I am teaching health to the 7th and 8th graders the last hour at Tabernacle. And that's something interesting because, as I mentioned before we left Tabernacle, I was planning on going to Bob Jones and thinking toward being a high school teacher. And then we were gone 20 years and I'm coming back and teaching. Once we kind of dawned on me, I came back, left for 20 years, and I'm coming back and actually doing what I had thought about doing before I left. And it's somewhat challenging. I can't even imagine teaching school all day long. That hour is just good enough for me. And then I'm taking a Bible survey class in the Bible Institute, Major and Minor Prophets, and have thoroughly enjoyed it because I really never have studied the Major and Minor Prophets in depth. And we're supposed to outline those books. And Melvin's fussing, he says, they said an outline, they didn't say a commentary. And he said, what if all the other students did this to their teachers? Because I have almost written commentaries on them. But I wrote them the way I could understand it, so that any time I wanted to go back. Because a lot of times you hear all this, but if you're not doing it, I'm eye-oriented, and if somebody tells me something's kind of give me the book, I want to read it. And so I thoroughly have enjoyed that, and I guess the most amazing thing when you study the Old Testament is the mercy God shows. That, like even in Lamentation, where it's all weeping and mourning and all this and all this bad stuff that's coming on these people, and yet right in the middle of it is that great is thy faithfulness. His mercies are new every morning. And that's basically where we get the song, great is thy faithfulness, right in the middle of a book. Lamentations, mourning and weeping and all because of the sins of the people and the captivity and all they're going to go through. And the Lord would always give them opportunity to come back to Him. And yet also how the Lord would take, He will get His glory out of any circumstance. He wanted to use the Jewish people to show what He could do in people's lives. And they refused. So He says, that's okay. You won't do it that way. You won't do it a nice way. You're still going to do it. I'll take you out of the land, and I'll let eventually, and since we live in such a era of time, we think in time and our time's so limited, we don't always see God working. But throughout ages, we can say, yes, God is showing to all the nations, through the nation Israel, in one way or the other, that He's a great God. And it's good to know that God's going to get glory out of my life if I succeed or if I fail. He's still going to get glory. And really, years and years ago when we were at Tabernacle, I think I wrote in one of my Bibles because I had seen the stuff and talked on, I'm going to walk in every opportunity that the Lord gives me. I had no idea at that point how many different ones, because I guess when I got married I thought, I'd get married and I would have children and I would be a housewife. Well, that has not happened. Melvin would probably like it if it did, but it has not happened. Then when we were in Virginia, I went to a seminar at Liberty University for ladies, Francis Schaeffer's wife, Eva Schaeffer. And she made a statement, and I wrote that in my Bible. It said that their desire was that they could live in such a way that someone would know that God exists. And I thought, You don't have to be smart. You don't have to be intelligent. You don't have to be real put together to show maybe in some way in your life that God exists. And so that's my desire, that by something that I do in my life, someone would say, hey, if he can use that dummy, he must exist. So I guess that's where I am today. Thank you.
Mine's gonna be short, sweet, hard to beat.
I know what that means when the preacher says that.
If you take your watch off, Brian.
I'm out of here.
We sometimes, I am gonna be short. We sometimes think that we have control of our lives and that we're in charge. But something came to me the other day, something happened in my life that made me realize that God's working in our lives when we don't even realize it. It was a simple thing. I had a meeting scheduled, at least I had it on my calendar, and in Gatlinburg, Ohio, near Columbus. And I always, when I have a meeting, I contact the preacher ahead of time just to confirm things. And so I made a phone call to the preacher, and I didn't get an answer. He was out of town. And so I waited several days, and then I tried again, and I got an answering machine, and so I left a message on his answering machine. Well, later on, he called me, and he had failed to write down the meeting, the date, for me to come. He had invited me, but he failed to write it down. And so he had just had a meeting the week before, and when I called him about the meeting that week, he said, I just failed to write the date down, write it on my calendar. And I said, well, that's okay, But when I hanged up the phone, I thought, well, how disorganized can a preacher be to schedule a meeting? I'm supposed to be with him, and I'm certainly glad I called, because I'd hate to drive 10, 12 hours and have no meeting. And the very next week, when I was supposed to be with him Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, it just so happened that 3 of our members died. And I had 3 funerals in a row, one on Wednesday, one on Thursday, and one on Friday. And the Lord knew I was going to have those funerals, and if I'd gone to Gatlinburg, Ohio, I would not have been able to hold a meeting anyway. I would have to come back and preach those funerals. So I thought, I was critical of that preacher, but the Lord was working all those things out, and I didn't even realize it. And so the Lord works in our lives when we really don't realize what He's doing. And when we get so big that we think we're running things, we better stop and just notice how God works things out in our lives in spite of us many times.
Take a turn. Tell us what's
See, I told you to go be short.